Ding dong, who is at the door? Well, thank goodness, it's James Joule, Joseph Black and Ludwig Boltzmann. You cannot have a party to figure out what energy is without these three fellows. You know why? Because James ran a brewery and Joseph was a wine dealer and Ludwig, well, he was just a super nice guy. So let's get this party going. And what's this? You've brought along the conservation of energy and thermal energy too. Okay, well, let's do that first. So in 1840, James Joule had this idea of replacing the steam engines in his brewery with these new electric motors. And while he came to the conclusion that burning coal was cheaper than batteries, because it was 1840, he came up with the idea that energy is never gained or lost, it's just converted from one type to another. And because he needed to measure how much energy an electric motor or a steam engine was using, he had to figure out an experiment and a way of measuring energy, including its unit, which he imaginatively called the joule. The energy needed to put a force of 1 Newton onto something for 1 metre. He pretty much lost interest in brewing after that, but they did name the local pub after him, and if you look, free parking after 6. But how is something heating up or cooling down got anything to do with energy? Well, material is made up of tiny atoms or molecules, and these move around more and more when you heat them up. They move faster and so have more kinetic energy. Thermal energy is just the kinetic energy of these atoms. And that's what we experience as heat. You can't really see them, and that was the problem for Jim and Joe and Ludwig, as the existence of atoms wasn't really a given until about 50 years later. But not to be put off, Ludwig Boltzmann, who is everywhere in physics, proved with mass the Boltzmann constant. The total energy of all the small things moving around is his constant multiplied by the temperature. Nice proportionality, Ludwig. He spent the rest of his life trying to defend this idea, and it caused him an awful lot of problems, but he stuck with it, so thank you, Ludwig. Joseph Black, a chemist, after getting bored with wine, figured out that there are 2 kinds of thermal energy. Latent heat was the energy you could add to something which would melt it without changing the temperature, and the brilliantly named sensible heat, which is the energy you add to something just to make the temperature go up. The latent heat was the energy you added to change the structure, and the sensible heat was the energy you added to change the temperature. Sensible, right? Or is that latent, right? Joe also figured that the heavier atoms would need more energy to move them about, so he invented something called the specific heat capacity, which is the amount of energy you need to move things so much that the temperature increases by 1 degree. So, did you guys discover anything else? Jim? Ooh. Ludwig? Ooh. How about you, Joe? Discover anything? Okay, I'm glad someone resisted the urge to name everything after themselves.